Welcome to another edition of Wings Weekly. I'm Jay Kleinknecht. That is head coach Steve Jennings. Coach, back from the showcase in Blaine. End up going 2-2 over there. First two games ended up wins, and the last two ended up losses. But all the games, both wins and losses, were close games until the empty net put some distance or a little bit of separation in the final score. But overall, some pretty close games. And I'm not going to go over each one individually, but the first game, a little bit of a slow start. You come on strong in the second and third. And in the second game, another win, another strong second and third period. Not a terrible first by any means, but it seemed like, as the tournament went along, the second period seemed to be one that you guys really kind of shined in. And like I always ask, overall as a staff, what were your thoughts? What did you like that you saw? And then what are some things that maybe you feel like need improvement?
Yeah, I think our starts, we have to be better, and I think that's part of the learning curve for a lot of these guys is how to start on time in a junior hockey game, right? Mm-hmm. So that's got to get better, and I think we started to show some inroads on that, and just want to keep building off of that, right? Certainly. Don't want to get completely dominated for a period and then have to rebound, and I think we've seen that in the past, and we don't want to do that. So I thought there was a little bit of growth there. I thought that second period and the ability of the team to come in, listen to some adjustments and guidance that we need and respond, I thought was really good.
Yeah.
Right, so that was good. I think our penalty challenges, and I think we had the same talk early last year too, right? That we took too many penalties early on, and it kind of put us behind the eight ball here. So want to get that under control and fix that a little bit. And I've also been told that we have pretty much entirely new crews in the Central Division this year. So anyway, we're going to work to that, help that out. But I think overall, I think our incorporation of what we've been trying to get going, I guess, is the best way. I think we started to see some good growth on that. That's a long event, 4 games, 4 days. I didn't really make major changes to the roster every day. We made minor tweaks here and there, and so I think again we're starting to see a little bit of response from the group. The thing that we really need to work on is maintaining it when we're getting the good response and we're getting, we establish our forecheck, staying consistent with it and carrying that through, multiple periods and not just flashes. And I think that's the thing that Zach and I talked about on the bus ride back. It's the understanding and applications there. The consistent understanding and application isn't there, right? Mm-hmm. And so we need to get that going here fast.
It seems to me, other than Riley Jurkovic and Heinrich that happened to work together at the same game, those are the only names of referees and linesmen that I remember ever seeing. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if that were true, that there are a lot of new faces there. Probably makes a bit of a difference when it comes to penalties. But like you said, something that you've got to take care of and get cleaned up a little bit. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's showing it to the guys, what's going on. I mean, both teams on the same ice with the same crews, right? Yep, so it's not about the crews, it's also about us. And so really trying to show the guys the application of it and here's your penalty and here's why I'm not going bananas on the bench saying it's not a penalty, because actually when I watch it in video, it's a penalty, right? So no crying, no complaining. It's just see it, learn from it, and what we don't need to have is 23 kids who get the same learning one at a time, right? We want each of them to take that application from their buddy and put it into their game so we get better. And for some of it, it's going to be literally just that, showing it to them, explaining it to them, and helping them understand that it's not a popularity contest, and it's not that the ref likes you or doesn't like you. It's you blasted the kid straight through the numbers, and that's called a penalty, and you go to the box. And as they say in the movie, and you sit for 2 minutes and feel shame, right? So we don't want to go through this week in and week out. And I'm not sort of dismissing this. It's an issue that took wind out of our sails. In each of the games, at some point, we had penalty troubles for a stretch that helped us not be able to build momentum, and we can't go through a season that way, and we won't.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought would be I don't want to say a highlight, but a shining component would be the goaltending. I think both Gino and Cole did a great job of keeping you guys in games and giving you a chance to win. And like I said, the end-all score may not look that way because of empty nets and so on. But generally speaking, there were some big moments for both of those guys that gave you an opportunity to come back and win. And at least make it close down the stretch in the losses.
Yep, for sure. And they're both committed for a reason, and they're committed to really good schools, right? And they're, I think for both of them, they established who they are to the league and to our division here this weekend, and we want to keep building off of that. We had a specific goal over the summer to try to make sure we come out with strong goaltending. I think, Scott's been a huge help in this area, and it's paid off so far.
Excellent. Well, one of the pregame conversations that we had there in Blaine, you kind of mentioned that you feel like this group is a little further along at this point than last year's group, for example. How do you measure that?
So, it's a conversation Zach and I have all the time, right? So we start looking at it, when we're trying to teach things, can we teach it quickly and get some application, or are we having to resell and reteach and that sort of stuff? So that's a big part of the measure right now, right? Just seeing that. And I think, you always come out of Blaine going, we have holes. Everyone does. Been to that event so many times, and everyone comes out going, I need to make changes, I need to make changes. We all do. Some of the changes, we need to get the kids to apply what we're teaching, right? So for these guys, we're starting to see a little bit more of an application of what we're talking about, which is good. It's just, I think about some of the concepts that this time last year we were trying to teach, and we had spent time trying to teach, and it didn't really come out in the games for another couple of weeks. So we're starting to see, and I'll say not full application of it because it's not consistent yet, but we're seeing that in there. So that's where you start to feel, okay, we're at least getting into the gray matter and starting to get some application there, when now we need it to be full on and keep it going.
Sure. All right. Wanted to touch a little bit on I don't know, conditioning in a sense, because 4 games in 4 days is difficult. But and you can say, well, everybody has to play those same 4 games in 4 days. But there's a lot of teams out there that have been on the ice, before you guys were able to, and had their team, whether it be practicing as far on ice or conditioning off ice, they were together sooner or whatever. Does that become any kind of a factor, do you think?
I mean, if it was a huge factor, we wouldn't have the result we had, right? Yeah. So I think it does. It always does. Part of it is what kind of a factor do you make of that, right? Mm-hmm. Do you create that opportunity for that to be a crutch or an excuse for the kids to hear, oh, we haven't been on the ice, so it's okay to not be at your best, right? And I think we've gone out of our way to say, I don't really care. Like, you guys are junior A hockey players, aspiring college or pro players. Like, you need to figure it out. So we tried to get ahead of it before we came in. We did some Zoom calls, and this is where technology helps you a little bit these days, right? So we were able to get, I think we did 8 different calls with the group before the kids even reported to town to start laying in some of the concepts to try to make up for the fact that we weren't going to be fully together. Sure. But I did feel as a result of that when we got in here, they knew our faces, knew our voices, they kind of were familiar with each other. So we started to gain some of that being together benefit through those calls. Now, you can't do it all remotely, but it certainly helped give us a bit of a leg up. And we're starting. I'm encouraged by what we have. We're not nearly done.
Right. Interesting point, though, that you do get a chance to kind of lay some of those groundwork or building blocks, so to speak, ahead of time, even when you're not together. All right, well, Showcase is behind us. You got Bismarck coming up, a home opener here at the ODI Center. And Bismarck, frankly, they struggled a little bit over in Blaine, and take away from that what you will, depending upon who they played and all that kind of different stuff. But they go 0-3-1 over there. What have you seen from Bismarck? I know you had a chance to scrimmage them earlier this year. What did they bring to the table, and what do you have to do to be ready for Bismarck this Friday, Saturday?
I think really for us, it's not about preparing for them; it's really preparing us for us, right? Okay. I think for us, we have some things that we want to tighten up in our game, and I think we need to establish our game first and foremost, and really make sure that we get the team ready to get out and perform on Friday night, right? So, Blaine's a good event. I love it. I think it does a tremendous job. The league does an unreal job putting it on. The owners are phenomenal for actually helping to make that happen, right? It's a great event. It's a challenging event, right? Because it becomes a bit of a marathon, and it's hard, right? I've seen teams in the past go 4-0, walk out of that thing feeling like they're going to win the cup, and then I've seen teams that struggle going through there, and they're the last man standing, right, at the end of the year. So it's hard to make a true conclusion out of Blaine about what's going to happen. So the mistake for us, frankly, this week is to, again, it's just like the crutch of we're not here. It's use the same thing. Well, they're coming in and they had a tough weekend, so that it'll be easy. It's not easy. It's a Central Division, right? There's no easy night here. We learned that last year. We saw that we have seen that to the bitter end in the Central Division probably for the last 5 or 6 years, right? Where literally the last night of the season is important for 1 or 2 or more teams, right? So last weekend is history, and this weekend is what we're planning on.
You know, in the years I've been doing this, I feel like, honestly, it's the opposite of it being easy. When a team comes in that has come off 2 losses or whatever, they seem to play their very best. You know, they're hungry. You know, they're wanting to right that ship, so to speak, or whatever. Obviously, and I'm not talking about here at the beginning of the season so much, but even during the midway through, when a team comes off getting swept, they usually bring their best game.
Yeah, right. That's what the whole thing's all about, right? Mm-hmm. So really, I think we spend a lot of time with the guys over the course. We did it last year, and we'll do it again this year. Over the course of the season, trying to not build a conclusion for the coming weekend based on the past weekend or past events and things like that, right? And I think in little kid hockey, maybe you can get away with that, but at this level, it's the worst mistake you can make, right? And it's really, that's the difference between a fan and a player. Yeah. Okay, so a fan goes through that and decides what could or should or will happen, and a player shows up ready to play, gives their best, and leaves it all on the ice. Yeah,
good point. But and again, going back a little bit, what does Bismarck do well? What as far as game planning, what do you got to do?
Sorry, we go through this every week.
Like I always say, I'm not asking for some secrets that are
I want to go to
away.
McDonald's with you and watch you ask them for the secret sauce recipe.
It's sounded interesting. I tell you this all the time.
I think, honestly, Lane always does a good job of getting his kids to play downhill fast. And I think we saw that in preseason. So I expect nothing different here. I think for them, we need to be ready to play our game, manage our emotions, because again, it's that opening weekend, big event, right? And I think for us, it's really our whole thing is putting a little bit more of our control on our structure. That's the important part here for us, and showing up ready to go. Yeah. Right. I actually wanted to make sure that this group, when we go out Friday night for puck drop, that we're not having to take the first period to wake up and play the second and third. Right. That's the big goal, and something we will talk about for sure here this weekend. Like I said, I thought we got better across the time in Blaine, and we need to continue to get better. All right.
Well, Coach, I'll let you get going here. I appreciate you taking some time to answer some questions and kind of walk us through the showcase and what, as a coaching staff, you're able to take away from an event like that. Great opportunity for players to be seen. Plenty of scouts from all kinds of different schools and stuff there. So again, a great event. But again, as you mentioned, it's history now. So again, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck against Bismarck.
All right, thanks, Jay.
All right, folks, we'll be back with our second portion of Wings Weekly coming up after this.
We raise the bar on bar food with sandwiches, tenders, and there's more where this came from. To the greatest of all time.
We continue on with Wings Weekly, and as usual, a player is joining me. This time it is Owen DuBois, Madison, Wisconsin. Doobie, thanks so much for taking some time to do this again, just to talk with us a little bit and let some fans know a little bit about what your off-ice stuff is, and just get a chance to kind of get to know you a little bit.
Of course.
Let's start. I asked coaches last week about their off season. What does your off season look like? Did you get a chance to do any vacationing or anything like that?
Yeah, I did go out west with my girlfriend. We went on a western exploration, so we went to the Tetons, we went to the Badlands, we did all that fun stuff. But after that, it was a lot of hockey. Yeah.
What does the off season workout look like for you?
Well, our coaches here have workouts that they send for us.
Okay.
And so it's a lot of similar stuff that we do during the season, except more weight and less reps, so you can build more muscle rather than just trying to maintain. So.
Okay. Interesting. I guess I didn't realize that. I kind of thought everybody was sort of on their own, so to speak, when it came to, different the off-season workouts. You're a third-year guy. You're familiar with Aberdeen. You know where the good places are to eat, or what not that there are any bad ones or anything. I'm just saying that you know the ins and outs of the community. What do you say to the guys that are new? Do they come to you and say, all right, well, what do I do about this, or where do I go for that? Do they kind of come to you for some of that stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine they come to not only just about the wings and have questions about what game night's like and stuff like that, but also like I said, to kind of off ice the daily living type stuff too. So I have a question in regard to that. If you've had say 2 or 3 things that you felt like every new player needed to know about Aberdeen, what would they be?
Thing number 1, it's a small town. So get to know everyone as much as you can, because everyone knows everyone here. Thing number 2, more on the hockey side, just always work as hard as you can, on the ice and off the ice, because everyone knows that the coaches are watching and other players are watching. So just keep your head down and always do your best work.
Okay. And that always intrigues me a little bit about what veterans say to younger players or new players, not even necessarily younger, but Showcase. It's in the books. We just talked with Coach a little bit about the games themselves and so on. And I talked with Coach Stepan last week a little bit about all of the difficulties that can present themselves, whether it's meals or travel or whatever. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I wanted to get a player's perspective on what you guys, what's life like in 4 games, 4 days. You go over on Tuesday, you try to get things ready. You've got different game times and all those different things.
Right.
What's some of the biggest challenges for a player?
Well, it'd be one thing if every game was at 7:15.
Yeah.
Like how a lot of our games are during the regular season. But when you play at 7:15 one night and then you're on the ice at 2:30, then you have a really short window for rest and getting all your meals in. And our coaches did a great job of planning out meals and planning out when we could have our rest and everything like that. But it does get really tight when you have to wake up at 7:30 and get breakfast, and then you maybe have an hour to nap, and then you have your game right away. That's the hardest part for me, is just getting enough rest in.
And, going back, you're a vet. There's a lot of guys that have never been to the Showcase before. What do you tell them about it? I mean, obviously, like we talked about, the preparation side of it, just getting your body ready is difficult in its own right. But it's a big event. There's buses and teams rolling in and rolling out, and you've got people going everywhere and scouts all over the place. So that can be kind of intimidating too.
Right.
Is there anything that you guys might have talked to some of the newer players about?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is just nothing matters except for the game. You can do whatever you want to prepare, and everyone prepares their own ways, but as soon as you touch the ice, everyone has to be on the same page, because like you said, there's people there watching, fans, scouts, colleges like that, but the most important thing you can do is just play your game, play wings hockey, and I think we did a pretty good job of that over the week.
Well, and that was the other thing I was going to ask you, actually, how you felt the games went, because as we talked about, 4 games in 4 days is tough. And, as veteran guys, you guys, you and OC and Walshy and all those guys, you're getting the most minutes of the, people on the team, on the team. So consequently, that 4th game has got to be a bit of a challenge physically. Did you feel like you guys were gassed at all towards the end of that, the 4 games?
Yeah, but at the same time, all the other teams went through the same thing.
Very true.
So that's not really an excuse. Everyone goes through it, and you just gotta play. You just gotta push through.
That's a good point. I mean, and regardless of whether it's officials or the size of the sheet of ice or whatever it might be, both teams are playing on it.
Yep.
Okay. We've got Bismarck coming up in just a little bit here. We're going to talk about them in just moments. But what do you like to do? When you're away from the rink, what do you some hobbies and different things like that? I know this time of year, guys have an opportunity to golf and things like that. Are you one of those guys?
I like to golf. I am pretty brutal at it. So I haven't gone much this spring yet, or this fall, but I will. And like I said, I'm not very good at it, but when the guys are going, then I just go with it. It's a good time. Everyone has fun when you do it. But
well, let's say, okay, golf aside, what else would you do if like what do you like to do with free time? Are you a gamer guy?
Yeah, so a lot of the guys have been playing Minecraft.
That's still? I thought that thing was like 4 years ago.
Every year. We started a new world, and everyone on the team that wants to can get in and start. I don't know, we have like 13 guys that play, and it's a lot of fun.
That's crazy. I remember Jake Sept.
Oh, yeah. He was big into it.
Wow. He built an entire ODI center with the locker room, everything. I was shocked at the level of dedication that I saw that he put a lot into that for sure. All right, as I mentioned here, we've got Bismarck coming up. This is a team that you guys saw in the scrimmage. But, and of course, in your case, the last 2 years, too.
Right.
There's, the Central Division is very, very competitive. Mm-hmm. And, I always say that if Bismarck were our biggest rival, maybe at one time they were, but I don't even know that that's true anymore because everybody is so competitive anymore. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, I think as fans, people get excited when Bismarck comes to town because, it has been a pretty big rival for a long time. And we didn't have an in-state rival long enough, really. Brookings wasn't here all that long, so we didn't have a chance to really build a rivalry with them. It kind of felt like it was Bismarck. Is that something that you guys talk about in the locker room, about the competitiveness and rivalries in the Central?
For sure. In our division, any team can beat any team on any given night. And especially when it comes to Bismarck, for some reason when we play against them, the stakes are just that much higher. And the fans know that. So there's always more fans in our building when we play them, and there's always more fans in their building when we play there. But so it is a big game when we play Bismarck, and it's always really fun because the fans like to bring the energy.
Yeah, and I always feel like it's interesting for new guys in the locker room because they haven't felt that. They don't know that what's on the line, so to speak, until later on in the year. Then they're like, okay, I get it. I see how this goes. That's interesting, though. What do you feel like from a hockey standpoint that you guys have to do as a team to be able to come away with a couple of wins here this weekend?
We just really have to buy in, I think, to what the coaches have been telling us, and we do a video report on every team before we play, and so just really making sure that our brains are turned on. Sometimes if you're working really hard but your brain's turned off, you're just not helping that much. So we've got to make sure that we have our brains turned on here, and I think we'll be just fine. Okay.
Let's see, another quick question here about, I keep going back to the veteran status here, but an opportunity, you know what it's like to come through the tunnel on a game night on the regular season. Of course, these guys have done it for preseason, but, the crowd was not like it normally is. How do I put this? Can you get to a point where you're almost a little too excited or too emotional about a game like a home opener like that?
Yeah, you definitely can. I remember my first time skating out of the Big W, and it gets you going a little bit. But I think once the national anthem plays and we go through all of the pregame rituals and stuff, everyone kind of settles in, and maybe it takes a few shifts, but skating out of that W with the music blaring, it can get you going quite a bit.
I can imagine.
Yep.
All right, you're a smart guy. I remember last year I asked you a question about whether you'd rather be the funniest guy in the room or the smartest guy in the room, and you said, well, I'm already both. So I got one for you here, a little bit of a riddle, okay?
Oh, great.
So what's one word that by adding 2 letters, you actually make it shorter?
Short.
That was quick. Did you just come up with that, or have you heard that before?
So last year, and then this year too, before every game. So last year, Landry Schmuck would sit on the bench with me and Kyle Gaffney, and he would give us 2 riddles. And they were always different riddles, but I think Gaff maybe got 4 the entire year, and I got every single other one. So
that was quick. That's why I was like, he had to have heard that or something.
I have heard that one.
Because, it's a fairly easy one, but still, you usually got to give it a little bit of thought. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you. Like I said earlier, I appreciate you taking some time. I know, this time of year, there's a lot going on, as far as preparation goes and coming back from 5 days gone, there's a lot to do. So I appreciate you coming on the show here and joining me again.
Of course.
Well, folks, you're invited to the Wings 2022-2023 season home opener this weekend at the ODI Center against the Bismarck Bobcats, as we just talked about. On Friday, doors open at 5:30 and the puck hits the ice at 7:15. $15 bar stool seats are available inside the Automax Party Deck. Call Aaron at 605-380-5852 to reserve your spot. On Saturday, doors open again at 5:30 and the puck drops at 7:15. Again, $15 bar stool seats are available for Saturday's game. Plus, fans are invited to stick around after the game to skate with the Wings. Tickets are on sale now and online at tickets.aberdeenwings.com. You can also get $10 general admission tickets at NAHL Express location in Aberdeen with additional purchase or at the door on game nights. A few corporate night sponsorships are still available for the 2022-2023 season. Call Aaron at 380-5852 to see what's open. Don't forget, you can listen to Wings Weekly on via the podcast. Find audio for this season's, same thing, this episode on Spotify, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio. And for all the latest news and information on the Wings, visit AberdeenWings.com or follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Once again, Owen DuBois, thanks so much for joining me, and best of luck against Bismarck.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that'll wrap up this week's Wings Weekly.